All right, Captain Adam here, Reel to Reel Outdoors. I'm joined with John Bergsma from Fisherman's Digest, and we're doing a joint podcast, Captain's Roundtable today, and we have a couple of guests with us. Captain Mark Williams, he's a legislative director for the Michigan Charter Boat Association, and also Randy Claremont, and he is the Michigan DNR Fisheries Chief. So thank you guys both for joining us to discuss House Bill 5093. So House Bill 5093 is currently just dropped. What is House Bill 5093, like a quick summary of it?
Okay, well thanks Adam. So 5093 was just dropped in the House. Representative Vanderwall is the sponsor and several co-sponsors, but it's a stakeholder driven bill for fisheries only. It's a kind of an out-of-box solution for fisheries to drive home a funding solution for it, which directs your license funds to fisheries without anything going into a general fund. So you know that when you buy your license, that those fees are going to fisheries for fisheries expenses. Then they will then backfill, obviously the cost of doing business. So for license expenditures, commissions, or anything of that nature to the expenses. But all of the money would go to fisheries. And what it did is it created this out of the need, because we have to have a funding system that's going to be fixed. We don't have to keep coming back to it every year or every 10 years to try and fix what's going on with the fisheries.
Awesome. So what exactly is included in House Bill 5093?
So 5093, like I said, it directs the funds directly to the fisheries department. It also created a hatchery stamp, which is for fish production, because obviously we have a put and take type fishery with the salmon and the walleyes and other sturgeon, things of that nature. We even included splake, I believe, in there. So any fish production fish, you'd have a hatchery stamp. And then we created the Fisheries Oversight Committee. There's been such a distrust with the Michigan DNR and such. Our fishermen said, hey, why don't we sit there and look at this and say, let's have something where we can help fisheries. Take a look and say, all right, they want to do X, Y, and Z. We can give an opinion on that to help them, and then obviously then help the legislatures to say, yep, we support this, we don't support this. Then they're not coming back and saying, well, you guys don't speak up, you guys didn't support this. Nobody said their piece. And the FOC was brought out, and I reached out to the folks, and with Michigan Trout Unlimited, the GLSI, Steelheaders, of course, the Michigan Charter Boat Association, got an Upper Peninsula rep, and then inland anglers, weekend warriors, and then of course some businesses. So there's basically a 9-member solution, and it's going to draw from the fisheries citizen advisory committees. So we're going to have it kind of opened, and it's kind of just started ad nauseum. So we just said, hey, let's pull them out, let's see what we can do, and go from there. And it's a business solution. It's not something that's just, hey, we need X dollars, here's what we're going to charge. It's a business solution. It has the mechanisms in there so that we can go on ahead and adjust as necessary with inflation and what have you, and it covers the needs of the DNR. And Randy's been great as fisheries chief, as a resource for our data to get the numbers. Will this cover what you need going forward? Will it cover the needs for now? Because everything that they've brought up, the hatcheries for generators that are from the 1940s, early 50s, the upkeep and the maintenance that needs to be done, this does that. So that's where this came from.
Perfect. So maybe, Randy, can you give us maybe a little bit of your history, and then kind of the history of this, how this came to be?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm glad to be here to kind of speak to the need for Michigan fisheries. So I grew up in the Thumb, fishing Saginaw River, Saginaw Bay, angler at heart. Michigan has the most diverse, incredible fisheries. We all know that. And I had the perfect job managing Lake Huron. Basically, the waters I grew up fishing, I ended up managing and really enjoyed it. But what I saw was our ability to manage a fishery every day was falling short. We were falling behind our ability to stock fish, to assess the fishery, and those impacts, not managing the fishery adequately, directly impacts you all, your ability to have those unique opportunities. So my role in trying to identify the need as fisheries chief is really to be a sounding board to say, look, these are the facts. Michigan is in the top 5 in terms of all fisheries for the U.S. We're 33rd in revenue to manage a fishery. The biologists that work in Michigan manage 500,000 acres of freshwater, compared to nationally, a biologist would manage 15,000 acres of freshwater. So we have, the most incredible and diverse freshwater fishery, but very limited resources to manage it. And so, whether you look at our infrastructure, delayed major maintenance, hundreds of millions of dollars of capital outlay projects that are needed, our hatcheries, our facilities, our research vessels, or you just look at the fact that 10 years ago, we were stocking 10 million more fish than we are today. Fish food costs alone are going up exponentially, upward to the tune of the last 5 years. It's $500,000 more to feed the fish I do have in our facilities. So this is what's at stake. This is what we could lose, and it's really up to the stakeholders then to drive the solutions forward.
So Mark, quickly, this is a realistic solution to the problem. It's not another political idea.
Correct, yeah, and that's the best part about it is this is a business solution. When I first brought it to our sponsors, the neat thing about it was they said this is a business solution. Look, we have in there, like I said, the tool to be able to adjust as necessary. It has the ability to adjust where the money goes, which is it's going to hatcheries. It's directly to hatcheries with the hatchery stamp. It's directly to fisheries. Then if we need it for marketing and outreach, fisheries could give it to marketing and outreach back. If there's an expenditure for the licensing program, they pay for the expenditure of the licensing program. But if Randy needs it, like he's outlined, what he just said there for, improvements for maintenance costs for fish production, he can do that. I mean, we're looking at over a $4 billion industry, not million, billion with a B, economic impact to Michigan, and that's why this is so important. And the Fisheries Oversight Committee, that right there, then it gives him the ability then to look at stakeholders and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and we can say, yeah, we like this or we don't like it before it gets into a political thing. Yeah. And the legislatures then can look at it and say, hey, you guys like this? It gives them the backbone because we can go to our stakeholders and talk about these things.
So ultimately, it's giving fishermen, anglers more of a voice.
Oh, most definitely.
And confidence.
Well, confidence and a voice. We've already seen during these, these times when the government shutdown was possibly going to happen, there was a possibility, that, hey, maybe there won't be an egg taker or something like that. And the Fisheries Oversight Committee chimed up about that. And, Fisheries and Chief, Claremont, they took action on that and they heard that. So, yes, they are seeing that. And the legislatures have already said the same thing. They said, just in this short time, they're listening to the stakeholders.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, it seems like a common sense that the money generated by the fishery is returned to the fishery. Yeah. So licensing money would be available to the fishery. So if there's an increase in license sales, that would mean there's an increase on the fishery and would provide more funding, or at least availability of more funding. But let's just say, so that money goes into this fund and, and then they need to, let's just say, fix a road or something like that. They can't pull money out of that to do that kind of thing.
That's correct.
So it really is kind of makes sense.
It's a new funding way. I mean, one of the biggest things that I think all of us at this table, maybe other than Randy, but he probably has felt it too, is that from my viewers, the impact, the response I've got is rooted in distrust. Let's just be honest. Everybody out there has a certain level of distrust when you're dealing with government entities. And one of the things we don't want to do is point fingers at what happened in the past, but what we want to assure people who are watching this video is that this bill assures that the monies that are collected are set aside for that specific task and that it can't be poached from different entities of government to be used for things it wasn't meant to be. That's probably the single biggest thing. There's 3 big things why Fisherman's Digest, and hopefully the people that watch my show will support this, is because I feel like, and trust me, I've been in this since day one with Mark and all these guys in these meetings, I feel like this is a giant step in the right direction. That's really what I feel. It's not it's not about perfection in politics. It's about, did you solve a whole bunch of problems? And did you make what you did more transparent and more trustworthy? And to me, this bill does that. And there's not many bills, Mark, in politics that you trust.
Well, and I think
that's how this bill was written, correct?
Right. Yes, that is exactly. And that's why the Oversight Committee is there. I think one thing we do have to look at in the past, so everybody understands in watching this video, is in 2014, they reduced, and Randy, please clarify this for me. In 2014, they reduced the fishing license by $2, correct? From 28
and all
down,
species license.
and all species license from $28 down to 26, and they created the senior license, which was an $11 license for seniors, correct?
Well, and the discount was there before that, but yes, the 60% discount in senior license.
So they gave a 60% discount for seniors, which is fantastic, but there's not a 60% discount anywhere for seniors other than in the fisheries here. The biggest thing that came away for me was finding out that 55% of our fishing license fee went to fisheries. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, let me elaborate a little bit in the sense that, you know, when you look at fishing licenses and the cost over time, we used to have a trout stamp, we used to have different structures, but basically if you bought an all species license in 1997, it is the same price it is today, $26. So you're right, some of the changes happened over time, which actually increase it to $28. But then under the last license package where it was combined to an all species license, that price point decreased by $2. So that in itself was a different structure. But also the money that is collected from fishing licenses, legislatively, it's defined in statute, goes into a game and fish fund. And a game and fish fund is both hunting and fishing licenses. So how much funding the division gets to manage fisheries or wildlife gets to manage wildlife is dependent upon collective need of the department. And what I would say for both fishing and hunting is basing a model just on user fees, because that's 100% what we're doing, is not sustainable in the long run, right? And so, yes, we saw about 55 to 60% of a fishing license come back to the division directly to manage the fisheries. And that, in addition to the decrease, really has put constraints on us, especially in the last decade, in our ability to manage the fishery. This is a race to the bottom, because when you fix a license like this and then you start to spread it thinner across the needs of the department, it means less and less funds to do the job that needs to be done. And then people see that. They see the distrust, they see the fisheries stocking, habitat, you name it, that they want services and they want opportunity, and those opportunities aren't being delivered.
So this new hatchery stamp, I think that's what we're calling it.
Hatchery stamp.
That money comes in and goes to the hatcheries, or fish
in this bill.
In this bill. So the hatchery stamp, that was actually born out of the concept that GLSI had going. They wanted to do a 3 more rod idea and everything for the guy that's going out there in the smaller boats and such. And we said, well, listen, we need something that will go for fish production because of the needs of the maintenance and the hatcheries and everything of that nature. So we said, let's go back to that idea. Let's create a hatchery stamp. Let's have that hatchery stamp be there and go directly there. But for that hatchery stamp, you can now run unlimited rods when you're on the Great Lakes.
And the creel's the same.
And the creel's the same. And
technically,
doesn't harm the fishery.
Michigan's one of the few states that has a creel limit and a rod limit that doesn't necessarily need to be there, you know.
I mean, is that going to affect the fishery, unlimited rods?
Yeah, there's no biological impact really of removing the rod limit on trolling in the Great Lakes. If you're talking about pier anglers or more of a spatial component, it could, but trolling, no. With the bag limits and the other regulations, there's no biological concern.
And the way it's worded, you have to be in a boat.
Yeah,
so you can't go on,
I
can't go on the pier and set 25 rods.
No, you can't do that. And you know, you think about it, the most inefficient way to catch a fish is with hook and line. So that's not going to have it. And us as charter captains, Adam, I mean, we can run what we run now. It's not going to give us any more opportunity. No. But I mean, John, you know, you got the best.
Yeah, I've had a lot
scenario.
of comments from 1, 2, and 3 boat guys who, and what they just said is critical. I've seen some comments comments of guys saying, oh, then charter captains should run 30 rods. Well, Mark and Adam are both career charter captains, and I can tell you, I don't know and haven't talked to a sane charter captain who is going to run any more rods than they're already allowed to run by state limit. You got 4 guys and a captain in a boat, that's 5, that's 15 rods.
And usually a mate too. I mean, we hardly ever hit our limit.
You can't run any more rods than that without it just turning into a great big waste of copper and lead all tangled up together in a diver. But guys, to the guy fishing 1 or 2 or 3 guys in a boat, now 2 guys can go out there and start competently fishing with 4 rods apiece so that they can set a couple of boards aside, a diver aside, and a rigger aside, and those extra rods are actually going to transfer into not just more fish in the boat and better success for you, but a greater ability for you to dissect the water and have enough rods in. That's one of the reasons extra rods is important, is because you can touch all the different zones you want to touch with the different baits. And I've had lots of my guys calling me saying, you know what? This is really good for small boats with guys 3 or less, because it allows them to now run 8 rods where they can touch all those different zones. And you can easily, out away from the pack, run 2 boards, a diver and a rigger on each side.
And to the point of the hatchery stamp, funding for the maintenance and everything, that will then go to the more fish production, which then allows us to stock more fish inland and in the UP. Because now we can then start looking at stocking maybe salmon in the UP, maybe some more fish in the UP, which they desperately need as well. And that's why it was important for us in the FOC to have a representative up there. And it's also nice to know that our sponsors, we have legislatures in the UP that have sponsored it as well.
Right, and to a ton of the people that watch our show again, and I know Adam's reel to reel, why the FOC? I want to address that to my guys specifically. It's important to have a group of guys from all different areas of fishing, stream fishing, lake fishing, inland lake fishing, all different areas of the state, Upper Peninsula, Northern Michigan, Lower Peninsula, because now when we sit down in our virtual meetings and talk, I'm hearing from my viewers, Mark's hearing from the GSLI, all the different board members have their points of contact that thousands of people can feed into. This is the first time that I can ever remember that a group of people is actually listening 100% to fishermen and addressing their concerns directly with fishermen, not up in a lobby office somewhere in Lansing, but back and forth, so that when we sit down, Mark, we're representing a massive group of people to their best interest, and I think that's the key.
And I want to just say one thing here. There's another bill out there. There's Senate Bill 276 and 277 by Senators Cherry and Bumstead. That's a complete bill. Now that covers both the hunting and the fishing. That would cover, that would take care of the whole department. Our bill is just fishing, and I know that's, some people say, well, it's just fishing, so it doesn't do the job, but it's just fishing because we're just fishermen. Right. Yep, we do hunt too, but we're just looking at that problem. The thing that we've, on that bill right there, to your point, we're looking at it as just doing fishing. When I spoke to a counterpart that was working on 276 and 277, he said, it would have been nice when we were doing 276 and 277 to have somebody that we could have spoken to make this work. And we did sit down and talk with Senator Cherry and Senator Bumstead, and this was before our bill was released, and they said that they would be open once this thing drops to talking with us, and they look forward to this happening. So we look forward to that happening as well and working with them, because I think it's going to be a good unity to merge the two down the road.
What do you got for us?
Well, I think this is a good common sense bill. Which maybe isn't seen all that much.
That's why people don't like it.
So I like this, and it doesn't seem like there's a bunch of extra anything in it. It's really, straightforward support. The money that comes in supports what people are using.
What was intended to come in.
Which is awesome. And I don't know anybody that fishes salmon, any of the hatchery fish, that doesn't want to see more fish, or the ability to have more fish if the science dictates that, and maybe even have better science, because you'll have maybe money for research and the things that really are hard to get funding for. So that's awesome. I totally agree. Why now? Like what makes this the critical moment?
I think the road to the bottom statement is a good entry point for that. Because I agree with you on that, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, really, the truth is, we have been falling off a cliff for several years, right? So we've been managing
funding-wise, not effort-wise.
Nope.
You've been done everything you can do with the money you have.
Absolutely, and we've managed our facilities with duct tape and baling wire and everything we could, right? And we have again some of the most dedicated staff in the nation in terms of they're passionate about our fisheries. They share the values. They see how important it is. But without the investment, we have really fallen behind. And I look at this and I say, why now? It really comes down to the point where we were running out of money to even feed the fish that we had in our facilities. It was that much of a crisis. We had a hatchery generator at our Wolf Lake hatchery last fall actually blow up and start on fire and risk losing millions of fish that we have been rearing and investing in because our backup generator is well past its lifespan, over 60 years old. So that's kind of where we're at. But I think, getting at this conversation about a stakeholder-driven solution, the last thing I want to do is to raise fees and for the 1.2 million anglers in Michigan. I want to invest in our fisheries so they have the best opportunity and they stay engaged and they actually go out and fish. And to do that, I've been transparent with how bad our budget has been, how challenged we've been in our resources, but also how we've been trying to get by with the limited resources to keep and maintain the fishery. So it's been a pleasure to be able to work with stakeholders and work with people like Mark and John and say, look, if you want to see where a licensed dollar goes, I'll show you, and then I'll show you additional needs well and above and beyond that.
So for my guys, why now? I could tell you why now, because I think fisheries in Michigan is a complete inflection point. It can go one way or the other. I think the management of fisheries, having dealt with Randy now for an extended period of time, fisheries is in the right hands, guys. We don't have a problem with what is being done or how it's being managed. This comes down to one simple thing. We haven't had a meaningful adjustment to the licensing here basically since, you could argue, 1997. What family out there, guys, look at me, what family out there, if you didn't get a raise for 29 years, where would you be? I mean, I can tell you where you'd be. You'd be in a breadline somewhere. It's not realistic. We can't expect fisheries to stock fish, maintain dams, maintain their facilities, maintain all the things that are their responsibilities, and then tell them, I don't want to spend $2 on a McDonald's cheeseburger so that my son and my daughter who go fishing with me can enjoy the same experience that my mom and dad gave me. I can tell you right now, this is a real serious issue with me, and I think it should be a serious issue from everyone watching this video. We're at that point. Right now, you're experiencing some of the best salmon fishing we've had in 10 years through the hard work of stocking, but you just can't keep going year after year after year and thinking that, oh, we don't have to make an investment or an adjustment to these fees. It's that simple for me.
And John, I think you raised it well. Most anglers are probably not aware that just this last fall, right now, this egg take for salmon, we were so close to having to cut that by 50%. Not even take salmon eggs, which would not only affect our fisheries, but it would throw the entire ecosystem of Lake Huron, Lake Michigan on its...
The predator prey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. The need is huge. I think people they weren't aware, but what I can tell you, not only with support in the House, with Senate bills and recognition in the administration, fisheries, the value of the fisheries and the need is now, I think, recognized at a high level. So really it's getting the support from the average angler and getting over the finish line to say the fisheries are worth it, we need to invest.
Mark, Adam, talk just briefly, you two have the most experience in this, the economic impact to a community like Ludington, Traverse City, Manistee, Holland, Grand Haven, up and down the shoreline, all the way around this state. You guys are long-term charter captains. Money is being spent hand over fist. The economic impact is huge, is it not?
I would say that most most people that go on a charter with me, and I think Mark can speak the same, they're not from Ludington.
No.
You know? So they've traveled here. They've eaten in the restaurants. They've probably gotten a hotel room.
Yeah.
You know, they're probably, you know, staying for a few days. It's part of a trip. They plan, but even outside of chartering, look at how many people come to Ludington to chase salmon.
Yep.
And they stay in campgrounds and they spend money in grocery stores. I mean, the recreational anglers, you know, all and the charters and all the charter boats that come here just for a few months to chase the salmon, and you know, it's an amazing thing, and I really think that this House Bill, you know, 5093 is a very responsible funding solution.
Yeah, and to add to your point to that, what I thought was very interesting, because I had some people ask me, they say, you know, well, this adjustment's going to be, you know, detrimental to my, you know, and everything. And I said, well, why is that? And they were like, well, you know, everything, you know, like you were saying, you know, different things cause problems. And I said, well, do you come to the, you know, do you fish? Yep, I fish down in Walleye in Saginaw Bay, and I fish over there. Really? Yep. And I'm like, well, when you come to Ludington, do you ever go to a place called Captain Chuck's? Oh yeah, I go into Captain Chuck's. I can't get out of there for less than $100. And I come to Ludington 10 times a year, you know? And I said, well, that's amazing, because when we come right down to it, whatever our license is, it's the cheapest part of fishing. Because every one of us comes in there and we want to buy that silver bullet.
Yeah.
That's going to catch us that next big fish, and our actual license is the cheapest thing we buy during the year. We'll think of nothing of going into Chuck's or Dreamweaver or Yak or whoever it may be to buy that silver bullet to catch that special fish, but yet our license, which is going to allow us to catch hundreds and thousands of fish, is small. But yet it makes such a big impact.
What other license or can you buy from, you know, the state of Michigan and say that all of the money is going? So if I bought, let's just say I have a driver's license that I pay for every year, and how much of that money actually goes to fixing the roads? Not enough. But the money that I'm paying for this license is now going and being earmarked to only be able to be used within the fishery, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I'll say too, you know, the solutions that are proposed would not only shore up the need to maintain what we're doing, but you know, I don't want to make promises, but I've looked at our inland program, for example, the walleye stocking, and we've fallen so far behind that we don't even have an adequate walleye or inland stocking program. So out of the gate, 1 million more walleye for our inland water bodies would be what I would want from something like this. You know, we want to take these and turn them right into opportunities for anglers. And you know, if you look at Michigan, we have a phenomenal fishery, but the truth is we're really scratching the surface in terms of what we can do to promote and to generate opportunities, and a little bit of investment will go a long way.
So with that being said, Randy, where are our license fees at right now compared to other states around us?
Yeah, we're the second to last in the Great Lakes region and 33rd to last in the country. And yet we have more freshwater than any state, you know, some of the best fisheries, and we're in the top 5 for all fishing opportunities based on the licenses sold and the number of anglers and how much they spend to fish.
I did a little quick calculation, everybody, just to put it in perspective. A husband and wife license, along with a couple of children's licenses, whatever level, and a hatchery stamp. You can't go bowling and go to McDonald's afterwards for the same amount of money. It's more expensive.
For one time.
For one time.
Bowling.
But when you buy these licenses as a family, you can go fishing 365 days a year. The fish you catch will feed your family for very low cost. I mean, the enjoyment, the recreational, the memories, or you can go bowling in McDonald's once, guys. And that the reason I bring that up is because sometimes I really think people get in spats and arguments about some of the stupidest stuff, to be honest. I mean, if they really look objectively at it, I mean, you and I have spent more at the Ludington Brew Pub on lunch and a beer.
This is true.
It's true. It's just, we have to at some point breathe and say, you probably, my voice cracks sometimes. I'm a passionate fisherman. It's what I do. And it's like, if you're like me, and for a few dollars of an adjustment, you're able to ensure that you, your kids, and your grandkids can enjoy this, and we want to have an argument about it? No, let's not argue.
Well, I think just to wrap that up is that this bill makes the adjustment, brings it into the 21st century.
Exactly.
It makes everything, it gives us what, the fisheries needs, and sets this argument, hopefully, forever done. I mean, it'll outlast us. We don't have to revisit this.
This feels more like less of me buying a license, but more of me committing to an investment, because the money that I'm spending on my license is going to the fishery to improve the fishery and maintain the fishery, which is what everybody wants.
And everybody's got to understand this, because Randy and I have actually had conversation on this, is that, I said, hey, if I set this up this way, Randy, you do realize that we still have to pay for cost of operating, because this is a business solution, so there's going to have to be operating expenses coming out of there. So yeah, every dollar is going to go to fisheries, but then some's going to have to come back out of that to pay for the bill. So you got to have that cost of doing business, just like we do with the chartering. But it's still going to fisheries. It's not going to be, okay, here's your portion of it, and then it's going to go over here for Parks and Rec and these kind of things. You're going to have to pay for some law enforcement, because LED's out there doing their job, and we're going to have to pay for the other stuff. But it takes that money and puts it there, and the hatchery stamp puts it to hatcheries. So now we know, like you said, I can be confident that that money is going to where it was directed to go.
All right, so I would like to have you guys just explain the different changes. So we have the change to the base license. We have the additional
the adjustment
hatchery stamp, and then explain the youth license. But just explain, if we can just explain each one separately, and we'll put that information out there.
Yeah. So the easiest way to say is that across the board, the adjustment's going to be $2. Okay, so we're going to have that $2 adjustment. Then we have a hatchery stamp for any fish that's been produced in the fish production. So that's going to be your walleye, your salmon, and your sturgeon.
But that is to possess.
To possess. That's only
Not
to
to
possess.
fish.
That is only to possess. So if you're out there fishing and you happen to catch a walleye, well, you can't possess it unless you have a hatchery stamp, but you can, catch and release. Yep. That's no problem. You can do that. With the hatchery stamp, obviously, you can run the unlimited rods then as well. The next adjustment.
Only on the Great Lakes.
Only on the Great Lakes. The other adjustment that we made is that to go along with hunting, and your daughter Lucy, she wants to go hunting right now, you have to buy her, to tag a deer, you have to buy her a mentor's license. Sure. Okay, or if you let them get old enough, they take hunter safety, you can buy them a license, but it's a full-fledged license. Well, we said, you know what, for a youth on the Great Lakes only now, a youth to possess a limit of fish on the Great Lakes buys a youth license for $5. And then at 12 years old, anywhere, to possess fish, they would have to buy a youth license for $5. And then at 16, it's mandatory to have a full-fledged license. Now, where this comes into play is because of a thing called the Dingell-Johnson numbers. And I'm going to let Randy get into this. But that's the federal dollars that come in on a per license basis, which is between $8 and $12. And this stuff goes up exponentially. And then we have a retention of youth, which is at 178%. It retains youth if they have a skin in the game. We're just matching what's going on. Now, if a youth doesn't want to keep their fish, well, guess what? They don't have to keep their fish. They can still fish. Sure. They just don't get to keep their limit.
Up until 16.
Up until 16. Yep, they just want to be able to possess the fish.
So what you're really saying is it's like one of those, Dingell-Johnson makes it like a radio match-in calling thing.
Correct.
So that to not charge anything on our part is actually massively irresponsible, because then we can't tap into those matching funds.
We actually have a volunteer kids license now, our youth license, for $2, but I think I'll let you go into that one.
Yeah, so the voluntary youth license is, again, getting at this idea that if you can both recruit youth into fishing, which is what I would love to see, but also get them to pay a little bit for a license, it will generate a lot of money from the federal government based on the Dingell-Johnson Act, which really is an excise tax on all fishing gear. It's redistributed or reallocated back to states based on how many licenses a state sells and how much money the fishery generates and how much water they have to manage. So, how much water we have to manage isn't going to change, but how many licenses are sold could change based on models of whether or not youth anglers are purchasing a license. Put in perspective, right now, for every $2 I get from a fishing license, I get an additional $1 from the federal government to manage a fishery from Dingell-Johnson. So a third of my budget is from this excise tax reallocation. When I said Michigan was top 5, it was based on how much money we get from Dingell-Johnson. If we did more to encourage youth and sponsored licenses or increase the youth participation, we could rise to number 2 or 1 in terms of the license holders and then investment back from Dingell-Johnson to manage Michigan's fisheries.
And then that money, of course, turned back into fisheries, then of course gives you a greater budget to work out of, which means your goals for inland lake walleye stocking, all those other things are much more realistic to attain, correct?
That's correct.
So other than the youth license, the other thing that we looked at was the senior license. It's a 60% decrease, or discount I should say, from the regular license. So there is an adjustment in there over time that will bring it to no less than 20% of the standard license that's currently, that will be wherever it is. So it'll never
incremental.
So it'll be an incremental on that. And that way then, and of course then the creation of the FOC, which is the Fishery Oversight Committee, to draw off of the Fisheries Citizen Advisory Committee. Of course right now, I'll be honest, I'm the one that chaired it. I handpicked it and tried to make sure, like you said earlier, from all the regions, UP and around, and made sure it was independent anglers, weekend warriors and such, and businessmen. And that FOC then has to work with fisheries, obviously work with Randy, oversee it. Recommendations, opinions will accompany any expenditures, anything like that he wants to do, so that when it goes to appropriations or whatever, they can see it and understand it, so stakeholders have involvement. So that way, this is a business solution and is comprehensive.
With communication.
With communications, big time.
Yeah, and as far as communications go, if you have any questions about any of this that we're talking about, any concerns at all, leave a comment. Leave a comment in the video. We'll try and get to them. If we see a lot of questions and in comments, yeah. We'll schedule a live stream and we'll do a Q&A live stream. This is a super transparent bill, I feel like.
Yes.
I think it's a responsible thing, a responsible funding option. And we would just want you to have the right information and not, clickbait that's thrown all over the internet. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh.
No. But, okay, so now let's just say, hey, all right, Adam's here sitting at my house watching this video. What can I do? How can I help? And I think there's a few things. I think start a conversation. Truthful conversations,
yes.
Positive or negative, truthful conversations are good conversations. If you have friends that are, fellow fishermen, anglers, get the right information out. Try to, if you have questions, ask those questions. Contact your House representatives, your senators. We'll put a link in the description on the video of where you can find who your local person is, or local people. Send them an email, give them a phone call their office, whatever you can do. I think if they're seeing that there's a lot of people in support of this, it definitely helps along the way. Anything else as far as
the biggest thing you can
do is,
the biggest thing is what you just said there. You got to reach out and talk to the House reps. So this bill is only in the House. So right now we want you to reach out to your House reps. Best thing you do is send a short, concise paragraph,
One paragraph.
you know, to your rep. It's hopefully going to be in the Natural Resources Committee. Representative Martin is going to hopefully have this out here in the next couple weeks or so to get the committee hearing, and then it can go to the floor and be released. But yeah, send it out to them, let them know, hey, you're in support of this bill, 5093, that we want this there, so we can then get it there and hopefully get it passed. And then we can get to the debate and see what happens coming then from the Senate, because obviously it's going to, you know, has to work for the fisheries. And we know it works for fisheries, but we want it to work for the DNR, and they're going to be bringing their bill down from the Senate. So we know that's the next step after this gets passed. We have to pass this first for the House first.
Correct.
So you got to reach out to them, get factual information. You know, everybody's on the internet. They're keyboard warriors. They want to do those things. You know, reach out to Reel to Reel. We want to thank Reel to Reel Outdoors and Fisherman's Digest for doing this. You know, this has been great for us to get this word out, because there's so many things that people don't realize. There's been, you know, a news article that was out there that was a hit piece that was not factual, and they just, you know, they don't listen to the whole thing. And this is the whole piece that's there. So you want to make sure that you get the factual information, and, you know, do the comments, and we'd be happy to do another Q&A.
A lot of this has to do with context. How did we get to this point? A lot of us, my viewers, every person watching this, we're here because in reality we haven't had a fee adjustment since 2014. I mean, guys, be realistic. Again, I've said this before, but it's so important to reiterate it. The reason we're where we're at and why this is necessary is because we should have been making these adjustments long ago. And now we're at a critical stage. And again, if you're as passionate about fishing as me, get the facts and understand, oh man, they haven't had adjustment. Again, how would your family be if you hadn't got a pay raise since 2014? You probably wouldn't even be working at that job. And that's what I'm trying to bang through my viewers' heads. Guys, this fixes this. This fixes it going forward. I don't care what happened. It's almost like a counselor at church, you know? I don't care what your past is, you know? How many light bulbs does it take to change a light bulb, you know? One, but the light bulb's really gotta want to change. And that's kind of the way I feel with this. All fishermen have got to stand up and say, this isn't an adjustment, this is an investment. Yep. That's exactly what this is. This is an investment in the guy at the end of the table's fisheries facilities, if you will, where we raise those fish. This is an adjustment to make sure that the fish that we haven't been stocking for the last 10 years, walleye on inland lakes, all of a sudden, lakes that need help are going to start to get help. How much more of a reason do you need than that? You know, solidifying the stocking that we have on the Great Lakes for salmon and walleye already, and it's showing great dividends. But guys, Randy's already said we can do a lot better than that. We need to step forward. We need to just step up. There's times you just need to step up and do what's necessary. This is one of those times in fisheries.
Besides talking to your rep, go with what you were talking about when people come to town. It's the restaurants, it's the hotels. Talk to your tourism bureaus, talk to your chambers, see if they're willing to write a letter and send it to them. Not just you as the fisherman, but talk to these people, talk to the mayors in your towns where you're fishing around the state, because again, this is a $4 billion industry that we're trying to manage here.
Well, and you know, I'm not saying mismanagement. I don't want to say that because I truly believe what happened in Lake Huron was not mismanagement. It was probably a lack of understanding and science and
lack of studies, quite frankly.
Maybe you know, the lack of restrictions on shipping. We maybe could say. But look at what happened to Lake Huron.
Yeah.
That's how important this fishery is. You know, that could happen anywhere if the fishery goes away.
Yep.
And I can tell you Huron's good now. I fished it. It's great. You go from doggone Monroe, Michigan, or the base of Saginaw, Lexington, Port Huron, Lexington, Sanilac, all the way around, all the way to Alpena, Sheboygan. Guys, that is a ridiculously good fishing system now. And that's through good management,
It is.
proper understanding of the studies, understanding the predator-prey relationship. I know there's a lot of fishermen out there who just want to huff and puff and say that those biologists don't know what they're talking about. Those biologists want you to catch more fish. That's the flat fact of it. And, you know, I'm not a big political guy. I don't have a lot of confidence in politics. I'm behind this bill because I love fishing, and it fixes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could just address the needs, and your point, Adam, is I think totally valid. If you look at what happened in Lake Huron, we're going to see threats to the fisheries. They're going to continue. Sure. And it's our ability to deal with those threats, either through stocking or surveys or management, that are going to allow us to weather the storm, right? Yeah. And as we sit here today, I watched a cormorant fly over us. And if I ask most anglers, you know, what do you see as the threats? That's one of them, right?
It's my biggie, and he knows
it. If you ask them, what are other things they'd like to see? Inland lake surveys. What's going on with my inland lake?
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, on everything that you can think of as a threat to our fisheries, we're not able to address it. We're not able to exert enough control to manage cormorants in balance with our fisheries. Mm-hmm. They're consuming too much fish, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, if you look at other threats, you know, we have to sit and watch some of them at the sidelines, knowing they're going to have detrimental impacts on our fisheries. Your inland lakes, our inland lakes, there's 11,000 of them in Michigan. I can have a crew survey them at a rate of once every 100 years. That's how much. That's our ability right now to address issues. And again, investing it. Our anglers know the needs. They know the threats out there, and they want our fisheries to be sustainable and have more opportunity. Yeah. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Hey, if they're doing this good of a job with these funds, just think what they'll do with 5093.
That's exactly. That's actually true. I mean, I thought about that. I thought, man, there's some real. Going forward, there's some real opportunity and optimism here. Read the bill, understand the bill. Once you inform yourself in the context of the failures of the past, you'll understand why the bill is necessary.
And I think, you know, I enjoy this fishery, especially salmon. I mean, salmon, Dr. Tanner had a crazy idea many, many years ago, and without the support, that none of this would have ever happened. Right. We'd probably be scooping dead alewives off the beach still. Mm-hmm. But we, you know, a lot of people have made investments into the fishery so that I can do what I enjoy. But I want to make at this point in my life, I'm ready to make that support and investment into the fishery for my kids and for their kids. Yep. And I don't know anybody that can't agree with that. You know, I think that you guys have more than proven your record that you can achieve great things, and you're continuing to do that. And there's setbacks, but we're, you know, recovering from things that have happened, and we're always going to have invasives that are coming in and changing. I mean, this is like a fish bowl where you throw a piranha in your fish bowl because it looks cute, and then it eats everything. I mean, we have a big fish bowl here that has a lot of things being added, and I think we're doing a great job. And I really, you know, I think by making this investment and putting logical funding in place, it will definitely help.
Yep, guaranteed and directed. That's the thing I want to leave my guys with. The funding is guaranteed and directed. It goes to a spot, and that is the difference between 5093 and other bills.
So I think, you know, thank you guys for coming. Thanks for sharing your knowledge of this. I hope that this answers some of your questions. If you have a question, put it in the comment. We'd love to try to address it for you there, or, you know, in a future live stream for sure. If you want more information, hit that subscribe button, click the bell anytime we drop a video. That's going to help you be aware that we're doing that. We're trying to do, you know, get out truthful, good, clean information, not weighed one way or the other. I think this bill, it makes sense. Yeah. This is the most logical thing I've seen from the government in a long time.
Well, the other thing is that if we do nothing, you can guarantee what's going to happen. Yeah. That's the problem. If you love fishing, doing nothing is not an option.
So anyways, thank you guys for coming. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll come back and visit more of these videos as we make them, and hopefully we can address any concerns and get this House Bill 5093 pushed through. Let's do it.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Adam.